What is happening out there, rotoscouts basketball fans? Welcome to the show, gang. Wednesday, little hump day action. 7-game NBA slate. Trying to get some sims done. Been waiting out, had everything ready. Was about to start running those sims at about 3:30. And then Fred VanVleet went out and completely changed the entire slate. So I got everything updated pretty quick. It's a fairly straightforward change to that rotation. It's just a matter, I've been waiting out, hoping that the ownership that I use would get updated. I just triggered off a sim with some guesstimated ownership, but I think it would kind of pay to wait on some actual. Let me see if this is updated now. Nope. Still not. There's going to be a major jump for Aaron Holiday on both sites. Welcome to Aaron Holiday Day. Happy Aaron Holiday Day, everybody. So, I'm waiting to deal with that. I'm going to rerun the FanDuel sim that I just did because I screwed up the upload, as usual. First one I always screw up. I forgot I have to unsort a column, otherwise I don't get everybody into the pool when I do the copy-paste, and it really doesn't matter. So let me reload the FanDuel one that I just kicked off. And I'm going to run these with the guesstimated ownership. Just had to make sure the mic was working there. Yeah, there's still a lot of other news out there, Steve. It's definitely a day with a bunch of fun stuff to be waiting on for a 7-gamer. But that Freddie VanVleet one completely changed the nature of the slate. So I did have to... basically wait this out. Oh, wait, this... No, that's the one I put in. All right, this is the DraftKings one. So what's going on, everybody? Keegan Murray out. There's another change. Did that come out officially? No, wait. Yep, Keegan Murray listed out Wednesday, 3 minutes ago. Perfect. All right. So, I tell you what, let me change that up real quick before I even upload this again. Talk amongst yourselves for a sec, gang. This will be a fun one. So that puts this back to basically the mess that it was. Ugh, this was that ungodly, 5 minutes here, 6 minutes there, 8 minutes here, 9 minutes there. They haven't announced anything about Zenkov, right? Was he still banged up on the last injury report? Not where I was planning on starting things. Not that I really usually have a plan here. All right, 4:30 injury report. Let's see what's has anything changed. AD still probable. LeBron still questionable. Cam Reddish still probable. Jonathan Isaac still questionable on the Magic. KD, Grayson Allen both still questionable for Phoenix. Everybody that was out is still out for Philly. CJ still probable for the Pellies. Trey Murphy still doubtful. Matt Ryan still doubtful. I don't expect either of those guys. Jordan Clarkson still questionable for Utah. Kelly O questionable for Utah. I had that already, right? Actually, that was... Yeah, that's on the list. Lauri Markkanen still out for Utah, obviously. So the changes for Houston that came out before were Tari Eason became questionable, so we added him in. He basically just kind of picked up the minutes that I had going Jayshawn Tate's direction, at least the biggest chunk of them, and then a couple of those got sprinkled around. Same with Freddie VanVleet. VanVleet's been playing 40 minutes a night over the last 6-8 games, and I had him at 39 again like I did last night. He went out and played more than that. So I had to sprinkle those around, but Aaron Holiday picks up the bulk of those. For Houston, that was kind of where I was planning on starting, but now I got to look into Sacramento here. So no news. All right, so Vincenko is not on the injury report at all, so I'll assume he's back in. And let me I'm just gonna give everybody basically like all these garbage minutes that they played the other day in this same situation. What's the this was only a 2-point game. What's the live? So let's see. Still a 2-point game, 231 point total. We had that. That's right where it was, so that hasn't gotten any changes yet. We'll see where it goes. Just totals wise in Vegas, since I'm here, 234.5 between Washington and Orlando. No secret there. There's going to be some action in that game. It's a 10-point spread in Orlando's favor. No tournament or any nonsense like that to worry about. Obviously, that did come in to be kind of critical in some of those games last night. We saw some of the Celtics play deep into the game. We saw a whole bunch of craziness. So definitely is something to keep in mind in, I guess, future years at this point, because we're beyond the point where the point differential is going to matter anymore. But definitely was a critical factor. But now we're dealing with a true 10-point spread, but 234.5, biggest total on the slate. 230.5 between the Pellies and the Sixers, some star power in that game. And then 231 on the board, at least where it was, with a 2-point spread in this late LA-Sacramento game, where I think we do have at least some pieces that are going to be interesting. 214.5 between Houston and Denver. With the Houston value opening up, that's just going to be a critical go-to spot. I expect to see tons and tons of Aaron Holiday when we eventually run this sim. Phoenix and Toronto at 227. Utah, Memphis, 223.5. And then the first game, LA and Detroit, 229.5. Then again, AD probable, Cam Reddish probable, LeBron questionable, but that probably means everybody's playing as usual. All right, so let me finish fixing this. That's what I wanted to look up, was the actual rotation. Because all those guys got a couple of minutes in the end of that game, but it was, let's see. Yeah, like Vezenkov got in into the third quarter, played the entire fourth, and racked up 15 minutes. Keon Ellis played 5 as a second quarter sub. JaVale got his usual handful of minutes. They all came early in the game. Didn't play at all in the second half. So, like, what are they trying to play? Davion Mitchell was first off the bench with Trey, Malik Monk. It makes sense that maybe give Mitchell a couple more minutes here. He only played 9, though. So dumb. And then Keon Ellis played 6. I've got 3 left. Why is this so dumb? So Malik Monk played the second half of the third quarter, the entire fourth quarter. Trey Lyles did basically the same, except for the end of the fourth quarter. Darren Fox played the entire fourth, most of the third. Chris Duarte didn't play at all in the second or the fourth quarter. So, that. See if anybody in the chat is chiming in here. Hey, Trav, what's going on, buddy? Travis Wyndham says hi. Yeah, Stephen Lubowitz Holiday is a cheapy play, sort of 4,100. I'm thinking Jalen Green looks good for the price. Jalen Green, I think, is going to be, is what he is, where Holiday is cheap and stepping into a massive upgrade in minutes. We'll talk about him in just a second. Dennis nails it. Don't want to play Aaron Holiday. Nobody does. Jake Swales bound Carroll smash spot tonight. Let's Sector do this game. I'm trying to figure this spot out. So this was more straightforward. It was a little bit more Edwards, Mitchell, Monk, Lyles, McGee. But I think Keon Ellis was unavailable that game. And he jumped in on some of... Actually, not really. Damian Mitchell played 9 in that one also, so I'm not going to give him anymore. 10? And I still got 9 minutes to spread around. Oh, that wasn't him. Was Chris Duarte in that game? He was. What did he play? Duarte played 21 in that game. That's where I can put some minutes, I think. I think I'm from 14 to 22. That solves my problem. Alright. Think this is okay. I don't love giving him those minutes, but I think that's alright. Alright, so let me update this. This is a fun start to the show, huh, gang? What else do you guys like out there today? Dell says, terrible night last night, looking to regroup. I had like a mid kind of a night, not a great night. Not a lot of chasers up at the top. Decent chunk of cashers. But just, who burnt us was Gordon Hayward. Burnt me anyway. He had a clunker of a game. I was watching that game. Like, I had it on while I was updating stuff after lock and all of that. And he came up in the chat, and I realized, like, oh, wow, I'm watching that game, and I literally haven't heard Gordon Hayward's name mentioned in the first half. That was not a good performance. Otherwise, a fair amount of stuff we were on came through. All right, so let me get this. Let's see if the ownership's updated over there. That would at least put us ahead of the game with getting these sims done. All right, so I got Sacramento taken care of. That was off the 4:30. We're coming up on 4:45 already. We haven't even started talking about the slate yet, which is fantastic. Close these windows. So we're going to get bogged down. And what have we done over here with ownership? Still not updated. Pals over at RG are taking their time with their ownership update. Either that or they really don't think the public's going to go for Aaron Holiday. I do. He's going to get like that. So I got to change these real quick. I'm just, again, we're going to run this sim with some guesstimated ownership here. This is going to be way up. Alright, let me take that. There will be a downstream impact where, like, the changes I make for Houston won't be accounted for necessarily across the player pool, but it's most likely not going to come at, like, the direct expense of one other guy. It's probably just more a across the pool impact. At a certain point, we might be able to just rerun these if we do get an update for ownership for whatever it's worth from those guys. I do like to have the, that's why I want the ownership update. Like, it's perfectly easy enough to go in and just punch in 25% for, for Aaron Holiday or whoever. But without making the other changes, it is less accurate. So I do like to get the actual pool. Oh, shit. I shouldn't have closed that. So welcome to the changing things in the background show. I know you can just stare at my face right now. That's fun for everybody. Updated, and now I can grab the Ace Mind pool, and that's the full thing. And I can go here. I actually do talk to myself a lot of the time like this when I'm clicking through these things. Just helps me actually hit the right things. Way too many clicks though. Way too many clicks. Too many files. Too many copy pastes and imports across files. I gotta trim this process a little bit. I've found that the best way to do the uploads right now for the Ace Mine Sims is just to have the space in my projections file where I just drop the template that they have in there, and then I copy paste across. But now I'm going to run the FanDuel one, and then I have to switch everything up to DraftKings real quick, and then upload back for another sim for DraftKings. It's going to take another minute. Alright, that one. And just use the defaults, and alright, FanDuel's running. Now let's get some DK stuff in here. So the thing on Aaron Holiday, I was looking into his numbers last year with the Hawks because overall, when we talk about Aaron Holiday, he is like this season. Oh wait, I should do this on the screen that you guys can actually see. Oh wait, I haven't shared that yet, so you guys can't see anything. You guys are gonna just keep on staring at my lovely face for a minute. So as I was saying about Holiday, and we'll get back into it in a sec, for this season, 0.71 FanDuel points per minute. And if we look back at last year, in a full sense of last year when he was on the Hawks, he was in like a 0.67, somewhere on there. I've got it on the screen, but it doesn't want to load because I had to take... Yeah, so in the full sense of the year, 0.69 FanDuel points per minute. Obviously, not somebody that anybody wants to rush out and play in most situations. That was across 818 minutes last year. But where it gets interesting is when you start looking at him with and to find a somewhat equivalent comp maybe, when you look at him with Trae Young off the floor playing with DeJounte Murray, he goes up. He jumps to a 0.7 something. Where is he? He jumps to 0.72. And then if you look at him with both of those players off, where he's basically acting presumably as the primary point guard, which should be his role alongside Jalen Green today, I think. He jumps all the way to 0.98. That was in 226 minutes without either of those players last year. So there's a significant uptick when he is the focal point point guard. It's not irrelevant information. I've got him projected far below that. I think there could be justification for raising his projection from where I have it by a little bit, but I'm not. I've got him at 0.76, which is slightly above like the version of him that we had playing alongside DeJounte Murray, which is giving Jalen Green a lot of credit. But I think that's a reasonable enough comp. Give him a little bit more than what he was getting playing alongside DeJounte Murray without Trae Young, but not taking him all the way to the level where he was playing without both those guys. So that's what I did with Aaron Holiday, just while the Sims are getting off the ground here in the background. All right, FanDuel is done. We'll grab that upload in a second. Let me get DraftKings up and running. Nothing mega. Blaine or Chan, if you guys happen to be out there, is there a way that we can make it so that the first one that I instinctually click on every time is always the largest field tournament rather than the highest dollar value tournament? Would just be helpful. For dumbasses, really. There's no actual need to change it. Just dumbasses like me that need that. Ah, gotta change all the juniors and shit too. One of these days I gotta build that table for this. Alright. That goes to DK. So 16 juniors in this slate. One senior. A couple of the thirds, I think. Two of the thirds. And then I can't do the IIs without killing Joel Embiid by accident. So Kevin Knox II gets special treatment. GG Jackson, I think. Could just delete these guys. Might be a better move. None of those guys is important. I don't think Ricky Council's important either. Alright. And now... Hang in there, gang. We're getting there. This is how you entertain people. Do stuff they can't see, and don't talk to them about it while you're doing it. Learn from the best. So right now in the background, I'm just updating the background information to be the DraftKings info for ownership and all of that, so that I can run a good DraftKings sim. And we're going to upload that to AceMind. We're going to let those run, and we're going to pull up the board that you guys can see, and we'll talk about some of these plays. Open now. Okay. Come on. Just taking out those ones that weren't coming up. Weird. This is so dumb. I don't know why there's another column in here that didn't fill in right. So, alright. Now we're good. Hopefully this runs. Starts building the pool, will be good. Generating lineups. All right. What's up, gang? How many of you still here? 38 people still hanging on. You guys rock. Everybody just hanging out, watching me update this stuff. All right, so let me put a note up on the site. Oh wait, actually I can just update it. Last thing I got to do is just update the projections on the site for that Keegan Murray change real quick. Because it is, after 5 o'clock now? Coming up on 5 o'clock. So do the 5 o'clock update. Okay, so close this. Don't. That. This is just while the DraftKings thing runs, and for anybody who's not actually watching the show, wondering when I'm going to update the projections. Got to get that up there. And now as soon as this is done, if history and precedent is any kind of indicator, we'll get like LeBron and AD not playing and completely change the beginning of the slate and have to deal with that instead. So this entire show will just go completely down the tubes. And that'll be fun. At least it's not the old days doing like a live before lock, where it's like, all right, I'm trying to talk about this, and my brain's in meltdown mode because of the, the things that just changed and trying to scramble and get my own stuff taken care of. Those were always fun. Oops. Okay. Positions. Existing table. NBA projections. And NBA projections. It's just so, like, and then like this thing comes up, and for whatever reason I can't get table press to stop giving me way too many columns. So every time I update it, I have to delete all these columns for some reason, or these rows rather. It's just like, just cooperate. This could be made to be fewer clicks. All right, 457 updated. Is out. All right, that's done. That's done. I'm not going back to the site until the show is over. Nictopian, what's going on? You got this. Help me win tonight. It's just, it's not even difficult. It's just like, I hate making you guys sit here and watch. Had I known 2 minutes before I went live that change was going to happen, I would have said like, hey, give me 15 minutes, guys. I'll get this updated again. It's just so annoying to have to do it while I know I'd rather just be talking about the show or about the slate. All right, so let's get. I have to update all this too. All right, let's put this on the screen at least. You guys can see it, so you're not staring at me. All right, there's what it looked like a minute ago. I'm just going to update the projections in the background here for the Keegan Murray change. Which I have. I just have to move projections across from one file to the other. Probably should create a little lookup here and have a live update across, but I hadn't actually thought of that. There, and then we can drop the, since we're here, drop the sim results in. I've said it before, I'm constantly amazed by people who can control Excel entirely with their with the keyboard without using their mouse. I find that to be a skill. Alright, this was FanDuel. And hopefully my guesstimated ownership that we used is going to be roughly accurate. Let's see where we came out. Sorting by DraftKings win rates. Oh god, it's a mess. Let's see, because he's not in there. He's a junior. This is alright. Why did these guys not sim through? These were the guys I was trying to fix. Sorting by DraftKings win rates and taking out those guys who did not go through. Jabari Smith, Şengün, that makes sense. I don't see Aaron Holiday, which doesn't make sense. How did he do on this on the FanDuel side? He's at the top of the board on FanDuel. He came through at 5% on DraftKings with the same projection. That doesn't make any sense. 4,100 over on DraftKings. Is there another value point guard that's just gonna soak all that up? He ran through with the correct info. That would be shocking if that's the case. Who is getting all that point guard value on DraftKings? Let's find out. Oh, there it is. Jaden Ivey picking up a ton. Jalen Suggs, Cole Anthony, James Harden all grabbing some. That is stark. That's really surprising. I was expecting him to. Hello, person who's texting me. Nice. Glad you're here. Let's get into this here. That's not everybody. Oh, what's his face? I'm gonna add him. You can't do it that way. No, he's on Houston. What am I doing? Or he's on Sacto. Somebody's missing from Houston. This is I'm thinking across the two different teams where we just changed out. Who's missing? Tari Eason, because that's who I got added. That's right. Same situation for both teams. Somebody got added in. There's Tari. That, and I've given him 22. Alright. He didn't go through for DK Sims either. I'm going to rerun that DK Sim, I think. I really don't understand Holiday. At 41, he should have come up more than this. I guess since we're here, let's see. I probably do have to add Vizenkov in for Sacramento after all. Messy show with those changes last minute. I really only thought it was going to be Van Vliet that we were going to have to deal with. Vizenkov didn't go through the Sims, but who cares? Anybody got eyes on, is that consistent elsewhere? Because I won't worry about it if it's consistent elsewhere. That Aaron Holiday's not going through as a value piece. Sounds like I'm secretly playing pole position. Yeah, I don't know what changed with the mic. Is it just way up too loud? Can you guys hear me? Something changed at some point recently with this microphone where it's just picking up way too much noise in the background. It didn't used to sound like that, where you could hear like every click and every smacking of my lips. How's it now? I turned it down a little bit. So... Alright, it's still only 5:04. We've got a little time. Let me see if I can get this DraftKings sim in order a little bit better. So Herbert has to change to Herb here. I missed that one. Or not. Oh, because I'm changing those. That's annoying. Alright. That's not going to work. There's another if error. Good enough. Okay. Business there. And surely we've gotten actual updated ownership from our pals across town at this point for the DraftKings slate. So let's see if we can do one with the actual ownership. The ownership will be telling too on how Aaron Holiday looks in their numbers. They haven't increased it. Maybe this is just not going to go up. What do they have it on? Has it gone up on FanDuel? Am I crazy? Am I wrong here in thinking that Aaron Holiday is going to be a big value today? They just must not have updated this still. He's still way low on. There's no way he's going through a 0.05 on FanDuel. Let's put it that way. So these are still just not updated. All right, so I'm just going to rerun it with the Sims, but I've got those other guys I think I've got the slate at least configured correctly now. And it might not have been that. He might not actually be coming through. Together. Let's give that one more chance on DraftKings. We'll start talking about it. We'll use some of the FanDuel stuff as a reference point, and we'll get into this because I do want to move the show along a little. work for some of these guys. That's cool. I hate when I'm trying to do these things on the fly, and for some reason, like the formula that I just put into Excel worked for 80% of the guys in here, and then not just a couple of other guys. But that would screw up the entire sim. It's like, it's so dumb. All right. Hopefully there's no trade. Okay. And we'll load up another one here. This is just to test that, just to make sure that nothing was screwy in that last one. Because at 41, it feels to me like you should be involved. That's yeah. That's the right sim. That's the right tournament. All right. So we'll let that run. Not crazy labs. He's the highest points per dollar. Yeah, 4,100 again. It's like, it's just crazy to me that it wouldn't. No, I am the Sky. I am the Kentucky. I am the KY. I don't know what you're going for there. Are you the KY or are you the Kentucky? Those are sending different messages. Either way, welcome. Did not change that you notice, or am I on a different mic? No, I'm on the same mic that I've been using since the start of the baseball season. Been unplugged and replugged in and stuff. How about now? Like, I don't know. No matter what I do, these green dots go like all the way to the top, and those are like indicative of how loud I'm talking. At one point, like I said, that button I had accidentally hit. And that changes it to like all-encompassing sound, but I put it back to the front-facing sound. At least I think I did. Yeah, it should be just front-facing sound. Well, anyway, I don't think we're going to worry about technical issues with the mic at this point. As long as you guys can actually hear me. Just confirm that you still hear me. Sounds fine to Stephen Goat. Thank you, Stephen. Appreciate it. Yeah. It also depends on like when you started hanging out on the show. It sounds like it's picking up from your computer fan. It says Beantown. The computer fan sometimes whirs real loud. Right now it's not doing much of anything. Ace Mine Sim is done. Yeah, he is not coming up again. He's mashing the ROI. Oh, it went through with 0.51 on ownership again. Damn it. So, it's not gonna... I'll try it one more time. I just don't know why he's not coming up in win rate. It's showing the ROI number correctly. I left the ownership accidentally way too low. But the ROI number was correct, but he's still not landing in actual winners, which is weird. I don't want to go through all these different rates and like push-pull things if it's not going to be consistent with anything that the slate actually looks like, you know? Get him fixed in the ownership and all. I got to assume he's going to be like, let's lower it. Put him there. And then it's going to be like, Shangoon will be like, yeah, there you go. One of these days we'll actually get there. It's just how much of the slate is going to hinge on this play that it doesn't make sense to talk about it if it's not going to come up right. Brooks, that was the other guy. He'll pick up a little bit. Alright. I'm going to run this one more time. And then I guess we'll just have to assume that it's that way. Last try. This time, hopefully. I mean, I could even try giving him like another point or so to see if that makes him come up more, but it's not going to be representative of anything real. I'm trying to get to something reasonable here. Like the way that this, like it's just, I could talk about the slate this way, right? But that doesn't really make sense. These guys aren't going to hit those sort of win rates with him sitting there like that. Even if we think he's not a good player, even if we put him at 0.65 fantasy points per minute rather than the 0.7 and change that I have him for, it's really not going to make sense to talk about these guys. Like the 42% win rate point guard, shooting guard on Jaden Ivey. Maybe some of that holds true through shooting guard for sure. He does look like a very good play. 5.11 points per dollar on DraftKings. On FanDuel, 5.02 shooting guard only. More value multi-position on DraftKings. I get it. He'll come up. He should be coming up a good amount along with Aaron Holiday. That's the thing. Holiday not forcing his way through, especially through that field of like 6s and 7s there. It's a little bit weird. Unless we just don't need the value at the guard spot. Right? But where else are we getting? What else is a crazy value on DraftKings? $7,400 Jaren Jackson, I guess, is coming up as a monster value, but that's a totally different kind of play. Just talking this through. I mean, yeah, look at this. He's by far the top point per dollar play. All these guys are significantly more expensive. There's no comparable value play on the entire slate until you get down to here with Drew Eubanks, who's projected for 18 minutes at 3,900, 17 fantasy points, and he's technically coming up more in that sim in the win rate column. I don't get it. How'd we do? Oh, this might be better. He's at least in a bunch of the early ones. Hey, we got there. All right. I don't know what changed. I ran the same data set outside of the ownership, which should only impact the ROI numbers that I don't actually even show on here. But check this out, gang. Hey, there he is. 55.9% of the winners. That makes sense. That's why, look how much these guys changed. That's why I didn't want to talk about it. Look how much Jaden Ivey changed. It's important to have these things right. Damn, that was an effort. All right. It's 5:16, by the way. We're 14 minutes from the entire world changing again with whatever's in the 5:30 injury report. Just saying. Welcome to the show, everybody. Half hour, 45 minutes in. We finally get this connected, right? So let's chat. Let's pull this thing up. We're going to make some pretty good headway here. I'm not going to say we're going to make up time because that's obviously the time that's gone. Let's jump to the guard position. All right, Aaron Holiday, biggest piece of value on the entire slate on both sites. Now we finally make sense. 3,900 on the FanDuel slate. Like I said, he's a .71 per minute player so far this season. That's roughly around the player that he was last year. If you looked at him on Atlanta when he was out there without Trae Young out there playing alongside DeJounte Murray, he was roughly at that rate. If you take both those guys off, like I was saying earlier, he jumps to the .98 range across 200 and change minutes. So I think it's fair to project him between the .71 that he's been this year and was in a comparable situation last year. And again, that's giving Jalen Green a hell of a lot of credit, comparing him to DeJounte Murray. But I do think it's fair to put Holiday on the low end in that range and consider his ceiling somewhere in that .95, .98 kind of a range. So I've got him projected at around .75, which is trending toward the low side of what he potentially could be. It's got him looking great. 33 minutes, 25 FanDuel points, 25 DraftKings points. Just a very solid option. Did I accidentally copy the same projections into... I did. Hold on one second. This didn't affect the Sims. It's just I pasted the wrong projections into the column for one of those. And it was 5. I put the FanDuel ones in both columns for DK. There we go. Slight differences. So 24.92 DraftKings points, 0.72 DraftKings points per minute. Kevin Huerter in that late Sacramento and the Clippers game looks pretty good. 32.7 win rate on FanDuel, 34.4. Guard only, shooting guard only on DraftKings. Shooting guard and small forward picks up a little bit of value on the FanDuel slate. 5,000 against the higher FanDuel cap versus 6,100 on the DraftKings slate is a significant difference. Actually kind of surprised he comes through as strongly as he does on DraftKings. D'Lo looking pretty strong, 22% winner here, 15% over on DraftKings. 6,300 both guard spots on the FanDuel slate. 66 point guard only on DraftKings. Lands in winner 16% of the time. It's a pretty big plateau right through here at the guard spot. A lot of multiple guards, but not as many shooting guard small forwards. There's a few, but not as many shooting guard small forwards as we've seen on DraftKings the last couple of slates, where a lot of that value is getting kicked over to the small forward spot like we saw the other day. Brandon Ingram hitting the board a little harder on the FanDuel slate at 81 versus 91 on DraftKings. Small forward on FanDuel over shooting guard on DraftKings. 8% of winners on DK, 11% on FanDuel. The plateau goes a little bit deeper, it looks like, on the FanDuel slate, too. Comes down to about this level, where it cuts off at about this level in terms of double-digit winners on DraftKings. A few more shooting guard small forward options, too, on that slate. Grayson Allen still currently questionable. If he plays, 5,100, pretty decent price. He's only a .71 FanDuel points per minute performer, but he can have his decent games. 12% of winners is not bad, 15% of winners. He's just an also-ran piece, but he's definitely a guy that you want to consider mixing and matching in. The minutes are there. Anytime you have a decision between a guy, it's not a direct count there or there. If we can get a guy, here we go, like Malik Monk, 24 minutes at 5,300 versus Grayson Allen, 33 minutes for 5,100. A lot of times, I'll just side with the minutes and just think that, all right, if I'm just looking for some ceiling here, let me take the guy who's projected for a pretty decent chunk more minutes and hope for the best. Even when it's coming down to a per minute rate-wise, a guy like Malik Monk, 1.07 points per minute. Obviously, that evens out the difference on most nights. But on the night where you get Grayson Allen performing at his peak level, which you need anyway to hit that ceiling, it makes up the difference in those minutes. Jalen Green, 12% of winners. Could potentially get him to crest a little higher in his current projection. On DraftKings, only 7% over there. 6,800 shooting guard only, 6,800 point guard shooting guard on the FanDuel slate. A little bit different positioning. Definitely going to see plenty of minutes tonight. I expect he'll be the primary ball handler at certain points during the game. If for whatever reason they ran it out and just had him as the primary ball handler to start things, that would be weird. But it's kind of a bad team, so. Jordan Poole, nobody's favorite. 9% of winners on FanDuel, 6% of winners on DraftKings. Just kind of also ran numbers for Jordan Poole. Down to 0.92 FanDuel points per minute on the season, 0.96 DraftKings points. Playable, but not a priority really on either site. Could get into winners on either site. Is capable of lighting things up and having a big day. We've seen it. Just not at all consistently, and just seems like he's playing a lot of disinterested basketball out there. Pick up at the top, Desmond Bane. 30% of winners on the FanDuel slate, 21% of winners on DraftKings, 8,500 on DK versus 8,300 on FanDuel. That's a big difference at that kind of a price level. That couple $100 against the different caps, very big difference there. But a good play on both sides. 1.15 FanDuel points per minute on the season, 1.19 DraftKings points. Jody Grant says, wow, jump into Aaron Holiday value scary. You missed the 45 minutes that we were sitting here trying to make sure that Aaron Holiday value actually showed through on the show. I'm sure we lost a couple people on that one. But thank you to the people who are hanging out and staying with us here. Hit the like button. Hit the subscribe button. Check out acemine.io. That's where those sims run. And those guys rock. So definitely had a lot of success coming through. A lot of the data that comes through, the plays that I like are informed by the sims that I run over there. So those guys are integral to what we're doing here at this point. Austin Reeves, 28-minute projection, just 0.93 FanDuel point per minute player, 0.97 DraftKings points. Not great in a points per dollar sense on either site, 4.28, 4.19 across sites, but landing in sims a decent amount, 15% on FanDuel, 11% on DraftKings and winning lineups. A little bit more of a top 1%er on both sites than he is a winner, but he can get there. There's a lot of guys that are priced in that range at this position too, especially like looking at FanDuel 62, 62, 63, 6,000, 61, 64. A lot of big wide range there across this plateau of guys that all sim out similarly. In terms of the star caliber players, $9,400 Tyrese Maxey. Always a good option. He's at this point I'm willing to consider him along the lines of one of those star caliber, just upside, pay up, luxury item type guys. Scotty Barnes, 1.29 FanDuel points per minute, put up 47.2 in 36.3 minutes the other night. 8,800, still below 9,000 on both sites. Definitely playable. Looks better on the FanDuel slate. Both forward spots over there. Point guard, small forward still on DraftKings. Just unique positional value, but only coming up in sims 4% of the time across both positions. Brandon Ingram for 81. Touched on him before. Forward on FanDuel, guard on DraftKings. What are the stars we have at these positions? The Clippers, again, just kind of falling in as they're all good, consistent plays. A little bit better looking on FanDuel, where you're getting Paul George for 86, James Harden for 75. Both eligible at shooting guard, Harden also at point guard, Paul George also at small forward. Same positioning on the DraftKings slate. They come up about 10% less, 16.9, 16.8 in winners, but still really important potential winners, potential winning lineup combinations. I don't know how many Clippers I want in the same lineup, but that is a high-end game. That last one of the night, as we said at the top of the show. I still have Pinnacle open. Don't closed. But earlier in the day, that was at 2:31. That was with the Keegan Murray news. Let's see if that line actually shifted a little. It had not when we started that updating effort. We're now at 1.5. Clippers 1.5 favorite, 231. So it actually, with Keegan Murray going out, it actually swung a half point in Sacramento's favor, which is weird. Maybe they were just counting him out from the beginning and we didn't have it that way. Either way, your Clippers are going to be valuable, and that is one of the higher totals on the board. Second highest still, but you do have a 230, you've got a 229.5. So call it a three-way tie, basically, between those games. That's the Lakers-Pistons, the Sixers-Pellies, and the Clippers-Sacramento, and then Wizards and Orlando's the lead game at 234.5. Would you please, buddy, what are you licking? Come on. Enough. This is a fun one. The dog's over here just licking the leg of the chair. Why? No idea. Just wanted to create sound effects for you guys. Good boy. Yeah, you lay there. Good boy. Alright. So up and down the guard position, this is a pretty broad slate. Even if we're just looking at DraftKings. There's a lot of win rate just sitting right there across a lot of those guys. Jaden Ivey, like I said, still looks strong, even though he cut from 40+% before we got to the Iron Holiday play correction. Down to 16%. Still a good play. 5.28 is the second highest positional points per dollar value. So definitely still an option there. 0.97 DraftKings points per minute, 0.94 on the FanDuel scale, 32.5 minutes last time out, 36.9 FanDuel points. Got a monster last time out of Cole Anthony. Don't know if I played that slate. 55.9, that's a biggie. 1.05 FanDuel points per minute on the season. For a $6,400 player, that's a great rate. 1.09 on DraftKings. Totals out to a 4.53 points per dollar, 4.68 points per dollar on FanDuel in 28 minutes. This was a 32-minute game, essentially, 31.6. This is about his ceiling. Not saying if he goes to 32, you get this game automatically, by any means. But it is a strong rate for the price. You just got to get those a few additional minutes to make the play, give the play a little bit of additional juice. Kate Cunningham, always like getting to, showing a little bit more value on FanDuel. About double the winning lineup rate. 6%ish on DK, 12.5% on FanDuel. Cheaper price, always going to give you that kind of a result on the FanDuel slate. 8,100 versus 85. Also has multi-guard eligibility on the FanDuel slate. So that's pretty dynamite. Scotty, we talked about. Anybody else downboard that's crazy valuable on FanDuel but not DK? It doesn't look like. Keep things moving, I think. We can swing back this way if we didn't talk about anybody that anybody wants to talk about. OG keeps coming up. Before we move on, 61 on DraftKings. Just kind of appropriately priced and hasn't really moved off these prices. So he keeps landing in these like 20% ranges. Not a monster ceiling player by any means. Definitely there's a pretty present basement on a lot of slates. 14.6 in 36.5 minutes the last time out. 0.82 FanDuel points per minute, 0.85 DraftKings points per minute on the season. But comes up like a pretty playable option at the guard position. I feel like I prefer a lot of these other names around OG, but I'll definitely have some if he's landing like that. Getting over to forwards. Triple J, top of the board on both sites, it looks like. Paulo Banchero picks up a lot of value on FanDuel, has a lot of value at 31% of winning lineups on the DraftKings slate, but he leapfrogs Santi Aldama on the FanDuel slate to 42% of winners. Going to be seeing, I think, a lot of Jaren Jackson, Paulo Banchero lineups when I take a look at, I don't know if, I'm assuming in the sim that we ran because of how they came up, but when my lineups are finally sorted for the end of the night, I expect to see a lot of those two guys at the power forward spot. And I would suspect with a couple big centers on the board that most of these shares will land at power forward too, not center. Small forward, power forward eligibility, being able to play Santi at the small forward spot has a ton of value on DraftKings as well. We obviously load up with some of these pretty interesting looking, highly projected, high win rate, high ROI guys on that DraftKings slate given the flexible positioning. Power forward center, power forward small forward, power forward only, shooting guard small forward. That gets really interesting with being able to flex these four guys around the board. Jaren Jackson, Santi Aldama, Paolo, Des Bane. You can toss Dylan Brooks into that bag if you want to, but not really the same caliber player, not priced like it by any means. A value play to consider as a mix-in with those guys. Franz Wagner could maybe make that list. Another guy who's certainly showing the win rates. Projection is relatively similar to those guys, so I would consider him as a part of that group. And then $8,800 Paul George, be on the high side of that price-wise, but I think based on the numbers, based on the projections, the points per dollar, and the returns in Sims, he also probably belongs in that group. So you've got a really nice spread of positioning across if you want to consider like a core across those guys. I wouldn't necessarily drop Grayson Allen in. Another guy who checks in just at 5,300, shooting guard, small forward. For one, we've already got a couple better shooting guard options in that group, and for two, he's still a little banged up. Is he questionable or probable at this point? Either way, he's on the injury report, so maybe we don't throw too much at him. Comes up perfectly fine in Sims based on how he's projected, but as far as like a good core of guys, that's not a bad group to work with. And then as you're rotating them around the other plays that come up, you'll have a ton of Aaron Holiday with that, and then you'll just have money to spend. I like that group. Franz is giving us 1.03 FanDuel points per minute, 1.04 DraftKings points. That same group, by the way, basically looks like it works on the FanDuel slate as well. You pick up even more value. Dylan Brooks only 4,900 over there, landing in 17.8% of winning lineups. A little better, actually, returns 5,400 small forward only, 20% of winners on DraftKings. So he does have his value. That's why he's a part of that little quote unquote core. I don't like the whole core thing, so I don't tend to refer to it that way. But I know people do like to use that terminology, so I'll just apply it to a list of guys that look like really good plays that should come up in your lineups, and you can consider it a core, you can consider it not, whatever works for you. Tobias Harris, 35 minutes, always floating around 35 minutes, always floating around 30 fantasy points in terms of projections. Can always deliver a low-end per-minute plunker. This one didn't look into why he only played 23 in that one in their last game. Averages 35 a night, but does tend to put up a fair amount of lower-end performances, uninspired fantasy performances. 0.90 overall on the season. A little, not high-priced necessarily, probably appropriately priced for that rate for his totals, but not a player I love getting to unless there's a situational change. Zion powering his way through at a reasonable salary, 8,300 on FanDuel, 5 points per dollar. That's actually pretty good. DraftKings, different kind of a play, 9,000 at the power forward spot, 4.6 points per dollar. Still makes it to relevance. 11% of winning lineups is definitely got him on the board. But 16 plus, pushing 17 on FanDuel, that points per dollar number is really good. Not a bad option over there, but you do have stronger plays up at the top of the board. Probably a higher ceiling than at least a few of those guys. Maybe not than Paolo, maybe not than Jaren Jackson. Probably around the same. The other guys on that list probably a little bit higher ceiling. But maybe not Dead Bain either. A lot of relevant guys like that, like Kawhi Leonard. Another piece of that three-headed Clippers thing. 17% of winners on FanDuel, just 10% on DraftKings. He looks like he's a little bit less valuable, so he's about 6-7 percentage points behind Paul George. Harden was roughly similar to where Paul George was. So out of the three, it looks like we're getting Kawhi a little bit less tonight. But in reality sense, he's projected around the same in terms of the raw mean projection. And any given night, any one of these guys could take the wheel a little bit. Kawhi put up 52.1 in 39 minutes the last time out. Has significant upside, equal or higher ceiling than either of the other two guys. So again, it's somewhat unpredictable the way that those three are going to be. Tari Eason, assuming that he plays, playable piece on both sites. For 4,400, both forward spots, I think I like him a little bit better on DraftKings. Showing a 10% win rate over there versus 7% mark on FanDuel. Was upgraded to questionable during the day, so we'll see what happens with him. But made it into minutes after he had been in the first cut of minutes, not in there. So we'll see what happens with him. Oh, he's in here twice. Why did he not come? Remember when I had to add him at the beginning of the show? We're just going to keep on moving. At least it's the same information. If he was in here twice with different sim rates, I'd be really worried. This is the one I added. I'm just gonna take him out. Brought you into this world, Tari isn't I can take you out. Alright. Anybody else's father used to say that to him? That was one of my dad's go-to lines. Probably always deserved. A lot of people got a lot worse than some sarcastic and, in retrospect, pretty funny lines. Let's see. Talked about all these guys up at the top. Talked about Zion and Kawhi. John Collins, not really hitting the board as hard as he has recently. Price, has the price gone up? 64 on FanDuel, 68 on DraftKings. Is that a higher price than what we've been paying? I feel like it is. But Collins showing a little bit of value, but not nearly where he was. Might just be getting edged out by some of the strong values at the position by some of these other guys. But he's a guy who's taken a dip in terms of how relevant he's been versus how relevant he looks today. People just playing blind might go to more shares of Collins. Pascal Siakam, 12% on FanDuel, 9% on DraftKings. Another just is who he is kind of a player. Will hit his ceiling from time to time. That's reflected here. Those are the ones that end up winning. Most of the time you're going to get 35 to 40 minutes out of Pascal Siakam, and you're going to get 35 to 45 fantasy points. Denny, another guy who's come up a lot lately, but not as much today. Just 5 and 7% of winners across sites. Kuzma, great projection. 57.4 FanDuel points in 35 minutes the last time out. Got him at 41.5. I like the player. I like the numbers he's putting up so far this season, let's call it. I don't know if I want to officially call it like another step forward for Kyle Kuzma. But he's been good. In terms of points per minute, Kuz on the season, 1.26. I got him at exactly that in a game that's roughly even. But, you know, an aggressively good spot for scoring and pace in general. Just not an uptick because both of these teams are going to be playing that way. So, I like the spot for Kuz here. As just in a vacuum play, ignoring kind of the sim results, and he's better looking on FanDuel at 82, both forward spots, than at 86, power forward only on DraftKings. But as a guy to just consider for, you know, if you get to one of the forward positions, there's 2 spots left. You've got, 1,500 and change. Go to Kuzma and then maybe drop in another guy from higher up the board at a better value price. But I think Kuz is definitely playable down there. KD, 49-point projection, just a 6% winner on FanDuel, 3.7 on DraftKings. LeBron, Scotty Barnes, these guys again, KD and LeBron most specifically, luxury items, the pay-up guys that you save up to buy. So the fact that their win rates are where they are just reflects on how difficult it is for them to make value at some of these salaries, but they do become just raw point plays after you've filled out most of the lineup that you're paying up to buy. And when we talk about those big end plays, it's those 75, those 80-point ceiling games that we need. That's most of the forwards. Let's take a look at centers. Triple J, top of the board again. Makes a lot of sense. Little plateau here. All these guys center only, too. That's interesting. Şengün, Biyombo, Yurt, Trey Lyles, Walker Kessler, Christian Wood. All showing between 10 and 17% win rates on the DraftKings slate. All center only. Şengün holds value on FanDuel, 20% of winners. 11% for Biyombo. Then you cut basically in half for everybody except for Trey Lyles, who's getting it at power forward, not at center. Interesting. Kessler coming up more valuable again on DraftKings. 59, same price. Same price, same positioning. Just again, another guy who's kind of like I said about Mitch Robinson yesterday, just the skill set in general is more conducive to FanDuel scoring a little bit than the DraftKings. That's reflected in the rate being 0.05 of a point higher per minute. But looking like a good play on DK, 14% of winners. Jalen Duren's put up some huge games. 7,000, not a bad price. 9% of winners on FanDuel, 8.3 on DraftKings. 6,900 over there. 45.3 FanDuel points in 33 minutes the other day. 1.18 per minute for the season. 1.17 on DraftKings. Solid option center only on both sites. Power forward center, you do have Wood and John Collins, who we've talked about on FanDuel. The power forward center options are a little bit limited on DraftKings today. Not a lot of multi-position coming through center. Obviously, you've got util, so you can use that, but a little different than we've seen lately. Really just Triple J. So again, that just hammers home the fact that, who was it, Triple J? Actually, yeah, none of those other guys are center only. I was saying it about FanDuel with both of these guys at power forward, and I'm sure that'll hold up too. Like both those guys will land a ton at power forward, and then we'll probably get decent amount of Biombo, I would expect, and then maybe we can spend a little bit of money at center on FanDuel, and like get to some Jalen Duren, maybe some AD in that spot. Although these guys are also power forward eligible. I don't know how much Embiid we get to without really, kind of pushing the issue, but that is an issue worth pushing. Same with Jokic. He's even further down the board, just 1.5% of winners on FanDuel. 12.6 is a mighty price tag to have to pay off. So 1.8 FanDuel points per minute. Embiid at 1.75. We saw Embiid just the other day, like I was talking about on yesterday's show. Went out, played just the first 3 quarters, put up 30, 11, and 11, and then just that was enough. So obviously monster upside in just 30 minutes, 62.7 FanDuel points. But that wasn't a winning lineup. That wasn't a tournament winning score that night. These guys at these 12 plus, these 11 plus prices really have to crest 70, 75 fantasy points to actually deliver value on a lot of nights. Not every night. There are nights where Joel Embiid at 62, 65 FanDuel points can get you there. Just depends on what else is there. But when there's value at the position, and there seems to be a fair amount, it becomes tougher. Because he's prohibitive to like what you can get at some of the other spots. So in the aggregate, those add up to beyond his score. I think that's obvious for those of you who have played before. Not everybody has, though, of course. Trey's out. Trey's got a dip. Zoom class. Good luck, buddy. Go learn something. Sabonis, another guy who's been shown a lot of value in recent slates. Only 2% of winners over on DraftKings, 8% on FanDuel, looking a little bit more value. Picks up multi-position at power forward there, so he probably slips into some power forward shares there alongside some of the high-end centers. I wouldn't mind getting a lot of these power forward center guys at power forward on the FanDuel slate, then take my value center shares around, like Biombo, take my Şengün shares, obviously. He'll be a big piece of the puzzle on FanDuel for sure. But it might be worth kind of pressing the issue around maybe a little bit Walker Kessler, but definitely the big name centers. Embiid and Jokic down board. AD I can grab it, hopefully power forward. 12% valuable on the FanDuel slate, just 4.8% on DraftKings. 9,800 center only on DK. 10.6 power forward and center on FanDuel, still maintaining more value. That's a pretty big difference site to site. I'm surprised. During we talked about Kessler, Yurt. Danilo Gallinari. I don't really see any real pressing need to go there. 0.97 FanDuel points, 0.99 DraftKings points. Just playing 15 minutes a night. That's where you kind of run into trouble as a DFS play. He's got a standard deviation in there, and that's where some of this is coming from. It's giving him a few 2 standard deviation games in the results across 50,000 sims, so he gets there sometimes. But we're not running this 50,000 times tonight. Odds are Gallo's just playing, upside of 18 minutes, which isn't going to give you enough ceiling to really succeed. So I don't love where he's at in terms of these sim results. I don't know how much I get to him. He's just coming through as a points play, right? He's only 4,100, 4,200 across sites. At center especially, though, I don't love that option. At the forward spots, maybe you can get away with it a little bit more. But we've got other good price-based options, so I don't know how much we need Gallo on this slate by any stretch of the imagination. Everybody else down board, just a lot of single digits. Embiid, more value on FanDuel. Sabonis, same thing. Joker, about triple the value on FanDuel, but still not cracking 2% of winners. Just 0.4% of winners on DraftKings. It's kind of like a really narrow slate. There is that at the guard spot. We saw that spread. Right, guard's got a plateau of guys on both sides. A lot of double-digit winners here, even more on FanDuel. Forward kind of just had that core of guys, where it's more like these handful of guys, and then center just kind of like straightforward. It's an interesting, just kind of one direct angle type slate. Herb Jones didn't sim through in any of that on. Oh yeah, he did. Now he did. Cool. He came through in the new sim, but I didn't reload him in this for whatever reason. He's not coming up. Oh, this probably isn't. Yeah. FanDuel changed him from Herbert to Herb, and it is just requires some flipping around. But either way, he wasn't relevant on either side really. 30 minutes, not much of a fantasy point per minute performer, and not coming up in sims. Vince Williams, also not relevant on either side, single-digit fantasy projection, not coming up in sims. Those were a couple of the guys that got zipped out of this thing earlier. Let's take a look at what some of those ace-mine lineups looked like. And then I'm going to punch out. I'm going to go see what else has changed about this slate. We'll get the site updated again. And I'll actually be able to build some of my own lineups. If I even put in placeholders, which I might not have done. Aaron Holiday, you can see obviously a monster ROI number there. Şengün, Kuzma. See, like I said, Kuz, even though his winner rate isn't totally killer, as one of the lower cost guys with a pretty decent ceiling, I like that Kuzma play. If you're just sitting there with 8,500 or whatever his salary was, just kind of in your pocket. See how many of these winners he's in. Again, he won't be in too many of them, but he'll probably be in a couple in this top group, I would think. To Pascal Siakam. Look at all the Pascals and Paolos in the middle there. A lot of P's. Pascals and Paolos through there. A lot of that core. Kessler, Şengün, Yurt, Biyombo, Santi Aldama. That's like entirely that center group that we were talking about. Kawhi making it in that top lineup is interesting. OG landing there. There's a Kuz. Banchero and Siakam with Biyombo. That's an interesting grouping out of that. Aaron Holiday just obviously dominating over in that group. Grayson Allen, like I said, I don't love where he's landing just because of one, the nature of the player. I don't love Grayson Allen just in general, but two, just coming off of being banged up, being on the injury report all day. I don't love getting a ton of Grayson Allen in that condition. A lot of Santi Aldama. He's definitely a key option today. Santi is I don't know that we focused in on him too much, but 1.01 FanDuel points per minute, 1.04 DraftKings points per minute. Small forward, power forward, 6,400 on DK. Power forward center, interesting option on FanDuel. Maybe that's where some of the center shares are going to pop up on FanDuel. 6,200 over there. That is concerning me in town. Hopefully he plays. The other thing I didn't mention in that game, Jamal Murray also popped up to questionable in that game. So he's projected in right now, or was earlier in the day. But yeah, low total in general in that doesn't necessarily bode well. But that said, part of that could just be kind of counting on the ineptitude of that Rockets team with no Freddie VanVleet. But yeah, it's one to keep an eye on for sure. One of Şengün's out there. He's been the key part of that. It's mostly falling on the Houston side. Like, we're not seeing a ton of Denver guys in here anyway. Downboard options a little bit. Take a look at some of these good lineups. A lot of Aaron Holiday. Not surprising. Glad we got that sorted out. So again, these are the numbers that we were looking at all through the show, the top ones and the winners, but just sorting it by just raw ROI. That's what you're looking at. Aja Thompson's another interesting one. Didn't really come up during the course of the show because pretty low win rates, just in the ones. But it's showing a decent return on investment. Not a bad option. I think we talked about basically everybody else there. Sims, courtesy of acemine.io. Make sure you check them out. They got sims, they got optimizers, NFL, NBA, everything you can need. DraftKings FanDuel, on the spot customer support. These guys rock. So FanDuel, quite a bit of Aaron Holiday up at the top of the board. Some James Harden coming through. James Harden and Paul George coming through. And Kawhi Leonard. Like I said, the fact that those guys are coming up like 25%, 18%, 25% each, they're going to be involved. It's just picking which one of these guys is your favorite, which one of these guys, you're going to tout. It's kind of a crapshoot. They're all showing value. It seems like they're all correctly priced right now, especially with how they're landing in these lineups. Kevin Huerter popping into a bunch of these. Paolo Banchero, another key play that's been in, I think I've said his name like 15 times already. Was in a bunch of those DraftKings lineups. And then, here we go. Here's all our Jaren Jackson shares at the power forward spot. A couple of them landing in center. But for the most part, in the power forward spot. Good amount of Zion here. A couple of Kuzma shares. Santi Aldama, as expected. And then the center spot, Şengün, Yurt, Biyombo, kind of right in line with what we're seeing on that board. A little AD creeping in here. So I guess not getting naturally to those. Here's an Embiid, but that took a while. A couple of ADs before we got to the Embiid level. Şengün's not a cheap center by any means. So it's spending money at center. It's just doing it mostly around Şengün. It's a big difference. Trying to say, like, there's no way we can call Şengün to Embiid, Şengün to Jokic a pivot, because you're talking about a whole, half a player, or a whole, a whole Dylan Brooks basically between those guys price wise. But it is maybe worth considering what those lineups look like. Maybe you build a pool out of lineups where you're, and I might actually consider doing this. If I build a pool of 1,000, 2,000, whatever lineups to drop into an ace mind sim to sim against the field of 35,000, maybe I build out a few extra lineups, a few hundred of each, where Embiid and Jokic are just locked, and see how those do. See if that configuration of a lineup, maybe it's not getting to it naturally, maybe it's not coming up with a lot of versions of it. But if you put more versions in, maybe they become competitive against the field, just with a completely different configuration. So I do think that's worth exploring on this slate, because it is leaving money to spend at the center spot if you want it. It's just not getting to those extreme spend-ups. So is there another piece of value that can be competitive in one of these other positions that can then get you to the difference with Jokic, who appears, now we're getting to Embiid, some Jokic down here. It's like in those lineups, we're getting still Aldama, KD, Paolo Banchero, there's a Danilo Gallinari. KD is a consistent contributor here. Denny and Tari Eason, KCP. A lot of the front-end construction's the same, though. Looks like you take a double-value point guard. Looks like the approach there. Maybe a double-value point guard and another value guard. Because these are Tyus Jones, Aaron Holiday, Dennis Schroeder, and then what is it? The Derrick Rose, Aaron Holiday one is the Embiid one. I don't like that Derrick Rose play really at all. That's one of the Jokic ones. So it looks like that's the approach to how it's getting to those expensive centers. Might be something worth considering. I think we could probably make better versions of those. If Jokic doesn't play, it maybe recontextualizes Embiid a little bit in terms of, all right, now there's only one target for that extreme pay-up center, so maybe you could get to a little bit more of him. Just he'd be on an island for raw scoring potential at the position. With that, I think that's roughly it, guys. There's your FanDuel ROI. Basically the same names. Holiday, Diallo, Şengün, Gafford, Jaden Ivey, Kuzma, Tari Eason, Ida Thompson, Zion, Jaren Jackson. Those are your positive ROI individuals. Similar-ish slate site to site, with a lot of these guys being key site to site. It's not always, the case, but it's not always totally variable site to site. But yeah, should be an interesting one. With that, you guys, chaotic show. getting all those minutes updated. I appreciate everybody hanging out through what was just literally sitting here staring at my face as I thought that through and got those minutes updated and then got those sims to run correctly. But we got there. That's the important part. You guys rock for hanging out. Hit the like button. Hit the subscribe button if you've not done that before. Make sure you're in our Discord. Come hang out in our Discord. There's conversation. There's good strategy discussion, all sorts of stuff. There's also a fair amount of nonsense from time to time going on in there, so it's a fun place. But say hello. It's linked in the description below this video. So click into that. You can pop into the Discord and hang out with us. With that in mind, I'm going to go get projections updated on the site, see what other kind of pandemonium is broken loose, get some lineups built, and we'll get this thing entered. Have fun out there. Good luck tonight. Somebody go win something. I'll see you guys tomorrow.